Welcome back, one and all, throughout time and space, for this episode of Weebs on the Weekends, the podcast where we break down the anime news highlights of the week and give a retrospective look on an anime that premiered 10 years ago. Today's episode will cover the anime news, well, not the anime news, just more us catching up with each other in the first week of January 2022, as well as our thoughts on whether to resurrect or rebury the 2012 anime Another. My name is Sam Martinez. I'm a part-time weeb, full-time automail mechanic. With me, as always, is my co-host, Jay Johnson, part-time weeb, full-time English language sensei. Now, Jay, how are you feeling coming back to the stage with 2022 as the backdrop?
Yeah, it's so funny because I love watching all those end-of-the-year reviews because I'm catching up on plenty of those because I've gotten big into like British television this year. So there's this show called 8 to 10 Cats Do Countdown, as well as the Big Fat Quiz Show. You know,
8
Google
to 10 cats?
Yeah, 8 to 10 Cats Do Countdown. That's a very odd title, but I love the show. And a lot of British comedians come on and like kind of do sketch comedy. But
where they have like comedians basically riff on the events that happened throughout the year previously.
Exactly, that's exactly the perfect definition of what I watch. So, and besides that, you know, I meant to say YouTube doesn't do the rewind anymore, but a lot of YouTube creators have kind of taken up the mantle of doing a YouTube rewind. The Google does their year in review as well. Vox does it. New York Times does it. So I've kind of been obsessed with catching up on 2021 because, you know, you get so closeted inside your own world. You're like, what happened this year? A comedian kind of summed it up. It feels like 2021 was just 2019 version 2. It's like we're all kind of stuck. And like even I kind of use each year by the movie releases. So like I watched King Kong versus Godzilla last year. The year before that, I watched the Sonic movie. The year before that, and so on and so on. I was like, oh, that's a good way to keep track of life, I guess, by the movies and the release dates. But doing pretty well. Yes. I'm on my next to last week of winter break from my schooling. Went up to the north near this lake called Hof School, which is the largest lake in Mongolia, and rode reindeer.
Oh, nice. How was that? Like taming the wilderness with you didn't hurt yourself? That's always good.
No, I did hurt myself.
Oh, no, I'm sorry you did. What'd you do?
It was just, reindeer are deer. I mean, that's kind of obvious thing, but it's like one of those things of like getting on an animal for the first time. So they're like well-trained, they're herding deer. So like they know how to behave, but it was my first time ever on the back of a creature. And this reindeer just took off.
You never rode a horse or anything else like that. This is your first time.
Exactly. Okay. And when my handler kind of like started to gallop us, and then it went into the full sprint, I was like freaking out and I was just bouncing up and down. And I'm a pretty heavy set guy. But this reindeer, man, he was like baby bouncing me up and down on his back. So I kind of cut myself on my inner thigh. But, you know, nothing too serious. It was just like one of those, not a laceration. You're a doctor. But it wasn't a laceration or anything, but a good reminder of nothing permanent either, but a good reminder of having fun is, you know, sometimes costly. But 2022 is looking pretty up, especially for the anime this season. But how are you doing, Sam? What's you been doing since
I'm doing
working man? You're more of a working man than I am.
I'm doing well. I wish it was a little bit more exciting like you. Because like after your time with the reindeer, I was about to ask like if you thought that like Santa could really like rein in 12 of those mugs to pull a sleigh. But seeing as how you cut your thigh, I could see like it takes a special type of person to have to rein those people in. But no, essentially, I didn't really do too much. I was able to visit some family that was very much needed. We were safe as well. We took precautions regarding the pandemic that still is sort of happening. And I was able to see Spider-Man 3 times, I believe, if not twice. It was great. I'm not going to spoil it now, even though the internet might have spoiled it for some others. I also got a chance to watch the Pope be entertained by a circus troupe who performed to the music of Sans Megalovania theme. That was very interesting. And more recently, I had watched the Disney movie Encanto, and the reason why I bring it up is because one of the songs had made a huge splash. It's made by the same person who did Hamilton, and it seems as though the music in this movie had taken to people by storm, and it just made me interesting. Well, because I'm going to bring it back to anime a little bit, because in this movie we find a person who has the ability to shapeshift right into other people, and the thing that makes this person unique as opposed to some of the other characters that I've seen in anime who are born with this power is that his sense of self is not disjointed or called into question. As you see this individual use their ability to shapeshift, it's very obvious that they have a sense of self, that they know who they are, and it's very refreshing. And I would just compare this to, say, somebody like Togata. I think her name is Togata from My Hero Academia, where her ability to shapeshift into other people, it's sort of like warped her sense of self. Like, what, she loves people so much that she wants to become them. And the only other character that I can think of that's a shapeshifter that has a sense of self is Cyborg 007. But when he got his ability, he was already a well-known actor, right? So he knew how to disassociate himself from the job and to keep his main personality intact. So just to bring it back to anime, it's pretty funny to have a Disney movie make you think a little bit about that in that regards. So, if anything, it's a great culture film. That was part of the reason why I watched it, and as I said, with those parallels that I saw, it made me think about that a little bit more. And aside from that, I had to work in it pretty much, but now I'm here to enjoy anime once again with you.
All right, sweet. And I called you a doctor earlier. I should
Yeah.
apologize for that. Yeah, you're a medical professional. I don't know if you have a doctorate in your future. I don't know if you want to pursue that direction, but yes, you're a trained prostheticist. Is my fault. My bad. My bad. My
No, no,
bad.
no. I appreciate that. I was going to mention that too. Don't want to give people the ideas like, you're a doctor, you know this. It's like, no, I'm not. And it's like a lot of my friends, like, they keep telling me, it's like, oh, you're a doctor. I'm like, no, I went to school probably just as long, but no, sadly, I'm not. I has no MD, only a master's. But
Yeah.
that's being said. Try to get back to anime. Are you excited about some of the anime that's coming out this year?
Yes. Perfect transition. Yeah. So, you want to talk about our anticipated for the season then?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about our anticipated for this season. And as always, the time codes are in the dibbly doo description. And we are. Would you like to go first, or do you want to, trade one for one? Because we have both compiled a list of 5 anticipated anime,
Oh,
and
yes.
I don't have mine in any order. But do you have yours in a
Uh,
particular order?
Yeah, I always have mine in a particular order because I like to say
Okay.
like my least anticipated and my most anticipated. So like even if
Okay.
you don't have them like rank 1 through 5, at least have like most anticipated marked off. But yeah, usually whenever we do a list, we have like the system. I think you named our game. Do you remember what our little thing is called? I kind of forgot.
Oh, I think I called it basketball shuffle. We probably have to give it a
Oh,
new, more fancy name than
yeah, like maybe like
that.
Weebs Ball, Weebs Ball or
Oh
something. But
yes, that's great. We're playing Weebsicle. We're playing Weeb Skit Ball. We playing Weeb Skit Ball.
yeah, but yeah, it is a thing of whenever we make a list, we have like 3 designations of Kobe, Yeet,
Hmm.
and Bench, where Kobe means we have a anime in the same spot. A Yeet means that it's farther up on someone else's list, or Bench means it's nowhere on the other person's list. So I have my least anticipated and I feel like we should have like a little corner designated for myself where I talk about ecchi and hentai, which this anime covers. Where my number 5 spot is World and Harem. Is that on your list at all?
No, that's a bench for me. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about that anime.
Yes. So for this is on my list because it has been something that has gone probably under the radar for the past 3 years of anime that is more not safe for work or for more mature audience that has sexual content in it. Where last year it was Redo the Healer, and the year before
Mm-hmm.
that was Interspecies for Viewers. But it seems like a lot of anime companies are taking to the idea of releasing ecche or sexually promiscuous aimed anime, and then releasing a uncensored version, a censored version, because with this anime, it is basically a world where all males have been eradicated due to a virus, and there's
Oh,
one
you
male.
mentioned this. You mentioned this because I've talked about Why the Last Man before, and I think you made a comparison to this one.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. So I was going to bring up Why the Last Man by Brian
Mm-hmm.
K. Vaughan, which oddly enough had a TV show last year about it as well,
Mm-hmm.
which bombed enormously. But yeah,
Oh
World,
no! Don't
yeah.
say that. I watched like the first episode and I wanted to keep watching. It seemed like it was doing a fairly good job.
Well, it did do a fairly good job. It just didn't get the numbers that they were expecting, so it kind of
Ah,
got
that's
canceled,
sad.
just like Cowboy Bebop did, kind of like a couple days after it premiered. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for this anime, it's World and Harem, and it's where all males have been eradicated or died due to a disease, and one male has been preserved to basically ensure the survival of humanity after a cure has been found. So the anime centers around this guy basically on a mission to repopulate the earth. And it's such a odd distinction from, Why the Last Man. That had a lot of geopolitics in it about what happens when males disappear and how does the world continue when half of the, or a little bit more than less, a little bit less than half of the population disappears. But this is more like the etchy comedy of like, oh, what kind of shenanigans is this guy going to get into with his sexual escapades? But the thing that
Mm-hmm.
put it on my list is just the idea that right up front, the studio responsible, Gokumi, announced that there's going to be a censored version and an uncensored version. And it's kind of been placating, or not placating, but giving into this idea that people that watch ecche or go into this kind of field for sexual content always want the more extreme version of it as well. So, just as trends go, I think this is something that we should keep our eyes out on as anime viewers. That this is probably going to become the norm after this year, and I just want to be the one that says, "Hey, I was the one that noticed it first." So
You heard it from
that's
here first, folks. Jay Johnson at the scene saying that every anime out there will have an uncensored and censored version.
yeah, upfront in their promotional. But yeah, that was Jay's hentai corner, I guess. But yeah, what about? Oh, yeah, let's hit off with one of yours then.
Yeah, so my number five, or my lowest one, would be Kuroshu Ai. Where is this on your list, Jay?
Oh, it's definitely on my list, and it made my number 3 spot.
Oh, okay, bet. So that's a Kobe for you. So we could talk about it a little bit later.
Oh
Then,
no, I mean it's perfectly fine to talk about it now. I'm not really that
yeah,
fond of the property, so it made your bottom tier, or it made your borderline. So what's
yeah.
up about this? Why didn't it make your cut?
I would say the reason why it made my cut was because I've been recently reading Spy Family, and the premise of this, it's essentially two assassins, a bounty hunter and another character. Essentially, they start falling for each other in a workplace, and it seems to be as though there is a bigger plot or scheme that's happening in the background. At least, like from what I've read in the summary, that's what I got from it. And so I thought that if anything, it would be a little bit more comedic, like I said, with Spy Family, because it's essentially a comedy of errors in that one. but there is a good plot, and with the characters, it's very plot driven. I'm sorry, not plot driven, but it's very character driven in the sense of how the plot moves forward. And with Kuroshu Ai, at least the summary, it's gotten me interested enough to give it the 3 episode test.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw the premise as well, but the thing that really attracted me to this one and why it made my list is that it's being done by Studio Platinum Vision. Platinum Vision, yeah. And they're a 5-year studio. Like they're really new. They're really new. And they have, or they did an anime that I really enjoyed from 2019 called Stop This Sound. And I think I'm becoming a music nerd through anime. But yeah, Stop the Sound was a anime basically about the koto, which is that longboard guitar kind of thing that Japanese musicians pluck, essentially. And seeing how like they have a lot of seeing that they are a new studio and they're tackling this manga based series that has only been like around for like a couple of years. Now that I think about it, like I think it's like 2015 or 2016 when it first got published. But yeah, like what you said about the bounty hunter and the X-Man, no, professional hitman, crossing paths and how that can kind of build up tensions if there's a like secret organization. I was thinking about like Black Cat, kind of if they were going to add like a supernatural aspect to it, but it doesn't seem like that since it's a josei, meaning it's directed towards the older female audience, so it's probably more heavily into the romance side of it. But there's enough about it that made me put it on the list.
And like I said, it will be very interesting because I don't think I've ever seen a work that is josei that has such a premise for action. So that will be very interesting to see how they would do, or at least try to balance the action and the romance in that regards. Now, Jay, what is your number 4?
All right, my number 4 is definitely a bench because it is about badminton. This is an anime called Salaryman Club.
Salaryman Club, yes, that is a bench for me, but that sounds like a comedy. Am I right in saying that, or am I completely wrong?
Oh, it's a sports anime. So this is being done.
Okay.
Yeah, badminton. Wait, did I say badminton? Yeah. Okay.
You said Salaryman.
Oh, so the title of the anime is called Salaryman's Club. So it is basically an anime where a bunch of salarymen basically relax with badminton after work. And it's very interesting. This is being done by Linden Films, who did last year's Tokyo Revengers. So again, always a studio, always makes me track which animes I'm interested in. But this is also following up to what Linden Films did a couple years ago called Hanabado, which was the very highly choreographed, animated badminton anime, but that was based on a manga. And this Salaryman's Club is more of original property by the studio. So I think it was one of those things of like they fell in love with the idea of choreographing badminton matches, and now they have their own original idea.
Yeah, it seems like they're honing in on what they know and making something out of it. So that'll be very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, exactly why I like to see studios do a little bit, do a little bit more experimenting since we're kind of in this vacuum of no good sports anime. So that was my number 4. So you have one now up as well.
Yes. So my number 4 is Sabukui Bisco.
Oh, bro, that's my number 1. All right, cool.
Oh no. Okay, I'll save it. We could talk about your number 1. I'll save it for later. Because next it would be your number 3. So then, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about Kuroshu Ai before we go to my number 3?
I'm glad you made that Spy X Family kind of comparison because I saw that kind of as well. I'm kind of saving, since Spy X Family is getting their animation or anime later this year, I wanted to save off from reading the manga, so not to spoil myself and then revisit it. But I do like that comparison, and it's funny that Kuroshu Ai is one of the few anime that doesn't actually have any publishing rights in any streaming services, so it's only being shown in Japan right now. So I mean, it's only the first week of the new season, so we're going to keep updating about where we can watch these legally because we want to make sure we're legal friendly here. So other than
Yeah.
that, it's just like really hard to find this anime anywhere properly.
I hear you. I hear you. We if we want to be supported by Funny and Crunchyroll and all the other streaming services, we can't stray far and influence our audience, no matter how tech savvy they may be. So my number three is Orient.
All right, cool. That's my number two.
Oh my goodness, dang, we're just going up. So then let's go ahead. Orient. Why is Orient your number two?
Yeah, so this is something that you turned me on to because I've
Mm-hmm.
always coded both Magi and Fairy Tale in kind of the same memory slot in my head because they were big in the 2010s. They were the shonen
Mm-hmm.
kind of holdovers until we had actually had some legitimate shonen to kind of delve into. But man, Orient has like such a interesting. It has like an interesting place in like what's going on with shonen right now because My Hero Academia is kind of dying. Black Clover is over. We had Jujutsu Kaisen just come, but because of how Mappa's production schedule works, we probably won't see a season two until probably 2020, 2025, or they
Mm-hmm.
might even switch studios. So if Orient does have enough of manga backing to like continue like Magi did for like so many years, and this is also done by um, let me not mess up her name, but it's Shinobu Otaka, who did Magi. She's doing Orient, but she also kind of falls into that camp of like the Death Note creators who did like Death
Mm-hmm.
Note. They did Bakuman, and then they did Platinum End. So they work on one property at a time. They don't kind of split their attention away. They stay on it for
Yeah.
a long time. So same thing with Orient. So I want to keep my eye on Orient for that reason because this might be the next big shonen for this decade technically.
Oh no, definitely like you said, because it has enough breathing room to where it can at least make a splash. As you said, with My Hero, they're sort of dying down with the anime. I think their current season just ended, and with all the other big shonens as well, it seems like it's gotten a good break. And with what Magi did in terms of what it means to be a king and what it means to rule people and what that looks like it really tackled that idea very very well, and the writing was done uh very spectacular in terms of character developments as well. So I'm very interested to see where this story is going to go in terms of the two protagonists that we're going to be following and what it means for them to be samurai in their particular world. So it's a very, very interesting, and I can't wait to see what sort of action that we're going to have as well. Because, oh my goodness, in Magi, all the scenes with Morgan, the chick with the red hair and her legs, oh my goodness, they slapped so hard. So I'm just excited.
Yeah, and it's already like episode one premiered last week, so it's
Mm-hmm.
already available on Crunchyroll. So it's like historical fantasy, demons, samurai. So it kind of feels like it's going to be a home run right out the bat. So yeah, looking forward to probably watching this with you for the season. So yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see. And that's all my thoughts on Orient. And my number one and number two are benches, and probably for good reasons, because they're sort of like old anime that have come back. And I know, like with these sort of lists, we try to showcase newer anime, but I didn't really see any other anime that got me as excited as these last two, which I have are Demon Slayer for my number two slot and Attack on Titan, the final season, at my number one slot. But Jay, let's go ahead and let's talk about your one and two. I forget because you said Bisco was your number one. What was your Orient was your number two? We just talked about, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk about Bisco a little bit.
All right, yeah, so this is on your list too, and I think this is something like you've pushed that I kind of ignored, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see the PV and Oh my goodness. This is, and again, like why I follow certain animes, how strongly that I do is because I look at the
Hmm.
studios first. And I had no idea who Studio Oz was. And Studio Oz is actually a animation studio that focuses singularly on
Hmm.
Finnish animations. And bruh, they have been around forever. They did final animations on Trigun and Escaflowne, and they've worked all the way up to Skate Infinite, and even the Hathaway movie for Gundam. So
Really?
they've been
So,
working.
so, Jay, would you mind explaining what you mean by Finnish animation? Like, so they do like the final touch-ups?
Yeah, yeah. So Finnish
Okay.
animation is a term where it talks about the color correction for animation,
Okay.
the final pen and inking, as well as pen, inking, and brushing, as well as any touch up and cleanups that is basically the final step before a anime gets published. And they're
Oh,
responsible for
okay.
that. And they have like, well, their filmography is just like layers and layers thick. But this is actually their first original anime that they're doing as a
Hmm.
studio. And please go watch this PV because it has everything. It has hippos with machine guns. It has crabs that you're using for transportation. It has kaiju. It has a very weird scene where you see people making out and then a dude pulls a larva out of the girl's mouth. And I was like, yep, sold me. Okay, fine.
Like, this is some Matrix stuff right here.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's
Oh
perfect.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Because it was out
Yes.
of nowhere. Like, you're just like, oh, wow, they're going to kiss. And then, like, larva, just like the size of the girl's head. But this is a story that's set up in post apocalyptic Japan where there's been a plague like rust on the world. It's not really
Hmm.
clear about what that means because this is based on a light novel series writing back from 2018, but it's focusing on two main characters. One is a mushroom hunter, the other one is a doctor, and they're looking for the cure for the plague. And the reason why it's so high up on my list is for that PV alone. Bruh, I watched it probably 5, 6 times straight because there's so much to
Told you.
catch. It feels like they
It's a
don't,
lot.
yeah, it feels like a Marvel trailer to see all the cuts that they're going to show. It feels like it doesn't feel like they ruined any of the story, but they feel like they put in like 80% of the what's going on in the story to make you want to pay up for the last 20. But
Hmm.
Sam, what about you? Why is it on your list?
Like you said, a lot of it was because of the PV, and it. I guess like with the way that with the scenes that they showed, the amount of action and the characters, they seem to be high energy, which is what I like on an adventure type story. So like it's going to it's not going to be it's going to be a fast paced adventure. It's not going to be one of those slower adventures like Spice and Wolf, where it's you sit and you meditate. Whereas this one is just like one speed go, and then we'll figure things out along the way, that sort of thing. And it's as far as the story, it doesn't really seem to be too unique, but at least like you said, with the images, the transportation crabs, the weapons like the hippo with the machine guns, it's going to be like, oh, this is going to be a wild fun ride, and like with these characters, it's going to be a good time. So I definitely, it's for those reasons that I'm looking forward to Visco.
Yeah, it seems like a Mad Max Fury Road kind of situation. But yeah, I
Hmm.
do want to, before we skip over it, I do want to say that I think the Attack on Titan um, final season part two, Attack on
Yes.
Titan final season part two is warranted. I try to leave off all the repeats because Vanitas is continuing into this season for its
Hmm.
second core, as well as what was the other one you mentioned?
I mentioned Demon Slayer. It's
Oh,
going
yes.
on right now,
Mhm.
and like we said, like a lot of other shonen, a lot of other strong shonen aren't playing, but Demon Slayer is still playing. But I feel as though, like, just going back to what we said about Orient, even though it's kind of weird, like Demon Slayer, like it's no slouch, but it will still give another anime enough space to make its impact, because doesn't matter what, like if you hear Demon Slayer, you know it's going to do good, but it's not going to take viewership away from others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure it does. And besides, this is the entertainment district arc that they're handling, and since they
Hmm.
did the Mugen Train kind of recap for the first couple episodes, I think the entertainment district arc only has about 5 episodes left, since we're on episode 5 or 6 right now.
Hmm.
So that's going to come to an end very soon. But other anime that I left off my list just because they're like repeats or um, not new is Takagi-san Teasing Master Season 3, which I'm really excited for. There's a new Fate, which one of our previous guests, Gerard, turned me on
Yes,
to, so I'm probably going to tune into that.
I finished all of it. It's great.
Okay. Good to know. There's also a new Dragon Quest anime that came out or will be coming out this season. So I've never been big into Dragon Quest, but it's always
Mhm.
been one of those property or video game properties that has many anime adaptations. So might as well tune in for this one. And the last one that I wanted to mention was Alpharetta, which I haven't really given any credit to, but now that season 2 is starting this season, I might go back to season 1 and watch that again. But that's
Oh
all
yeah.
that's on my list. You got any honorable mentions?
No, like you said, I guess just to talk about the honorable mentions, as you said, the Fate, because there was that new series that features El Malloy the Second, and then there was those two movies that came out having to deal with Fate Grand Order, and those movies were done fairly well. I would say I enjoyed El Malloy the Second, like that series and that special OP, mainly just because of the character that it focuses on and what that character means to me. So, but still, like both properties were very were enjoyable, and they both deserve a watch if you are a faithful Fate fan. But aside from that, that was our top 5 anticipated anime for the upcoming anime season. Again, description, time codes. Now we're going to be going on to the anime of question. The anime that we are speaking of today is from 2012, and it's known as Another. And Jay, this was your pick. So, have you heard about this anime before today? What were the reasons that made you choose this anime for us to watch?
All right, so let's get into this because another, for one, has probably the worst anime name in the record because you can go through like the long list of anime. There's like K, just the letter K, and there's like some other anime that just have
That's pretty bad. That's pretty
yeah,
bad. But
that's
like you
pretty
said,
bad.
this belongs in that same category.
Yeah, exactly. Because another doesn't really give you any like information about what it's going to be about. And actually, there's a particular reason for that because it's based off a novel series of the same name.
Hmm.
And the novel writer, because I wanted to give him a special shout out, is Yukito Yasuki. And he's probably one of the most famous, sorry, he's one of the most renowned modern horror writers in Japan right now.
Okay.
He tops the list of Japanese authors. Like he's like slotted for like the 8 spots in like the Japanese National Archive or the Literary Archive. And
Really?
yeah,
That's interesting.
and I
Yeah.
think it is a thing that is really hard to translate a novel, especially a horror novel, into animation. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on about what's the bad parts of another. But this is, like you
Hmm.
said, Sam, a 2012 anime. It's animated by PA Works, which we've talked about before. We did Angel Beats
Hmm.
um, in our 2010 discussion. They've
Hmm.
PA Works is also responsible for Eccentric Family, which I really love, as well as Charlotte, which is like one of my defining anime. And this is 12 episodes. It's available on Crunchyroll. And the reason why, like you asked, and why I brought this forth is because Forbes listed this as one of the best anime of the decade. And
Okay.
boy, do I just disagree with that. So like that up front, I want to say that I disagree with like one of the best, because like at the end of this episode, we'll talk about our schedule for the rest of the year. But boy, howdy, are there some good anime in 2012. But the story, at least of Another, is focused on a middle school class that has
Mm,
basically been put into a final destination kind of situation where there is some kind of spirit, curse, some kind of supernatural conditioning of a singular class in this small town, where the students of this one class basically die gruesome, senseless deaths kind of randomly. And watching the first three episodes, in the first three episodes, there is a very notorious umbrella scene,
mm,
which is the one thing I knew from Another, the umbrella scene. And as well as Another is kind of mentioned in the same breath of Higurashi, which is another kind of centric story around like kids dying horrible ways and a mystery, as well as like Corpse Party, Lied, Elfin, I lied, yeah, Elfin Lied,
yeah, Elfen Lied, Elfen Lied.
yeah, I always
Yeah.
forget because this lied or laid, but lied, yeah. And there was one more that I was thinking about, but it's all these horror animes that focus on kids just dying gruesomely. And it feels so, it gets into this area of very maybe fetishistic of fetishizing the violence.
We're fetishizing the violence.
Yeah.
Okay. And
But
I'm sorry, you were saying, I didn't mean
yeah,
to
just
interrupt.
to talk about how PA Works kind of does this. This is where they really put their budget into it, killing these kids in really unexpected, gruesome ways. I mean, the umbrella scene again, I mentioned in episode 3, because it really is unexpected. It's literally just
Yeah.
a girl carrying an umbrella. She slips, and then it impales her, and it really comes out of nowhere, and it's a real hard thing to watch if you're really queasy. So again, that's one of those things
Mhm.
of, this is definitely an adult horror series, but nothing else about it is really good. So how are you feeling about this, Sam? Because I think we have probably two different opinions on at least the first three episodes.
We do have two different opinions, and I'm glad that you chose this anime because for the longest, I don't remember how I got onto this anime. I think it was because of the summary. I've been wanting to watch this anime for the longest around Halloween time because of thriller and suspense, and it just took me back that this anime came out in the springtime. Not the springtime, but in the wintertime. So it's just kind of a little bit different that way. And I would say, like going back and watching it intentionally, I ended up finish watching the entire series, and I enjoyed it. And I would say that, like with the first three episodes, like if you go in not necessarily knowing the premise, at least like the first three episodes, it gives you enough stuff to grab a hold on, at least in terms of the characters, to keep moving forward, because they definitely, at least like how they set things up, they don't necessarily go in detail about the class history until after the three episodes, because in the first three episodes they basically have you question whether or not there is a character that the main character is trying to befriend, whether or not she even exists. And the more that he tries to befriend her, it's like the more bad stuff happens. And then there's even an instance where calls into question his own existence, and it does it does that fairly well in the sense of, you know, young kid in a new city, and not even like he lives at his grandparents' house, and like it's eerie, old people, old things, old ways, and not everybody is explaining everything to him. And so, as I said, like with the first three episodes, like if you go into that mindset of like trying to figure out like what's going on, it does give you enough to latch on to in order to, figure out like what his situation is, like whether or not this girl actually exists, if he actually exists, or like what's going on in this situation. And then as he goes down the rabbit hole, so to speak, you see the deaths become more gruesome, more violent in a very Final Destination way, like you said. So I would, I'm would say, like, what was it about the first 3 episodes that you didn't really like?
Wow, I'm
Jay?
glad we have such an opposite opinion of this.
Yeah,
Bruh, this dude, so is it Soichi?
yeah.
Um,
It's Koichi. Koichi.
Koichi. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I can't remember his name because he is so boring. And he is okay. So the whole push of his character is that he is terminally ill. Essentially, he
No,
is
no, no.
suffering
He's
from
not.
a very well,
He's
not
not terminally
terminally, sorry,
ill,
but he
but
is.
he
He
has
has
a
a
hereditary illness
thank
that gets better over time.
yeah,
But
yeah,
go on.
yeah. So he's dealing with that, and it's such this not okay. So it is a cheap ploy to like
Hmm.
kind of put you in discomfort of, oh, we have to protect this precious baby from getting hurt more, and it's like such one-on-one horror writing. So like this again, to just compare it to Final Destination, is that they have a cast of characters, they all have a certain archetype that they play into. The background characters don't really come into much in the first 3 episodes, at least as far as I've seen it. The focus is mainly on Koichi and Misaki or Mei, because it does seem to be something with Misaki. So, like, the strong elements in the first 3 episodes, at least, is that there is some kind of mystery about him seeing her and questioning his reality, like you said, but it
Hmm.
isn't in a way that makes you root for him, essentially, because again, the whole point of a murder mystery is that you want to see the characters live, and
Yeah.
I never really got that attachment moment for Koichi. I mean, one, sure, he's a sick kid, but he's also milk toast. I think I've talked about that terminology
Yeah.
before, about a character that's just so plain that they reflect better written characters off of them. And I guess that May or Sai, man, I'm
Yeah.
messing up her
Yeah.
name.
May. We could
May,
just call her May.
yeah,
Yeah.
May, yeah. Like she has a very interesting character model. Like her character design is very interesting and striking because I think she's probably the first anime character. Well, probably not the first, but she's probably the one that kind of standardized the whole covering your eye with
Yeah. The eye
an
patch.
eye patch. Yeah, I mean, we'll even see in later in 2012 the other anime that kind of did that with cheap cheap
Yeah. Chunbyo.
yeah,
Chunbyo.
yeah, cheap, cheap. That word that means you have a protagonist kind of complex
Hmm.
complexity. But yeah, and like she's has this whole creepy goth aesthetic that we've talked about in depth with like Go Sick from last year, that is very appealing when it comes to being animated. That a lot of animators have that kind of sense of dark and macabre to them, and it does reflect that with May. Like she lives in a doll shop
Hmm.
essentially, and that's they even reveal what's behind her eye and why she has an eye patch. So even in these first 3 episodes, I'm like, okay, she's the more interesting character. He's not. He's going to be the observer. She's going to be the main protagonist, or he's going to be the main character. She's going to be the protagonist. I'm like, okay, cool. But again, like even after the third episode, like to end episode 3 with the death of the umbrella scene, it's like
Hmm.
I'm not getting enough of that mystery element to really say, oh, this is a mystery that I want to solve as a viewer. So
Hmm.
I think if they let a little bit more into it, I think I would have been more attached. But for what people dying left and right, this mystery of this classroom, like why is it cursed? That's all you get in the second episode. Like it's quietly mentioned that it's cursed. So yeah.
Yeah. I would say, to be fair, the umbrella death, that was the first death that we've seen in the show up to that point. There, like, up until that point, there was hintings, or at least like mentionings, because we've seen May at the hospital before, and there is an inference that somebody else has died. But as far as on-screen deaths, and from what Koichi has known, or at least have been aware of, she has been the first death. And with something that has a big history of, or at least like a big following, as you said before, like you've heard of like how gruesome like some of the deaths are, and I've seen the deaths. The deaths are very gruesome, but like with an anime, you have that notoriety of gruesome deaths. To have the first death to be in the third episode, that's kind of, I guess, weird or unique in a way, because like with
To hold it off.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, to hold it off is like, again, like
Yeah,
why
yeah,
the
yeah,
three
yeah,
episode
yeah. To
test
hold it
works
off.
is because
Yeah.
of that reason. Like the impact of
Hmm.
watching an hour into it and then like, oh, that happens, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm into
Hmm.
it now.
But I agree with you in the sense that they probably could have explained, or at least have given you more information about the specific curse. Like, say, have like one of the students like mention in passing is like the more that he interacts with her is like the more likely people are to die, right? You know, if not necessarily like along those lines, but at least like allude to that fact, then we can start getting introduced to the mystery a little bit more. But it's as said before, it seemed like they were trying to do other things, and I would say the only talking about Koichi's character, he is very bland, but I would say that the only thing that was endearing for him to me was the fact that he reached out to May because it seemed like she was a victim of bullying. Because when we see May, her desk that she's at, the desk is just in shambles. It seemed like everybody and their grandmother had beaten it or kicked it to the curb, things like that. And the fact that nobody else would talk to her. So he took it upon himself to try to befriend her, right? And at least like, and from then on, like he just became, as you said before, a victim of observation, where we don't really get like his thoughts or anything, but he essentially is our portal to see these gruesome deaths. And so he is very bland, but I would say like that was the only part of him that made me endear him enough to watch, because he was trying to reach out to May with good intentions, if
Oh,
that makes sense.
sorry. I just realized trying to relive that
Yeah.
scene that you're talking about, and like she's doing the main character thing of sitting by the window. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm just thinking
No,
about
no, no.
that.
As you said, she is essentially the main character,
Yeah,
and
which
we're watching it from him.
yeah, which is interesting because she has the kundere kind of
Hmm.
personality type, meaning that it's cold and she's not quick to emotion or to expression, and that's a very interesting thing that we've talked about a couple times on past
Hmm.
episodes about having characters that have that kind of personality and still being well written enough that you're attracted to following their story. And I do like that connection because as an outsider, because he's coming into this town for the first time,
Hmm.
or returning to that because that's his hometown. Um, but yeah, being an outsider himself, he sees another outsider and like, oh, I can connect with this person. Like if she's being shunned or bullied or isolated, then I can be the one that breaks that through that. And I really wish
Hmm.
that was a little bit that feels
They
like,
played into that stronger instead
yeah,
of, yeah.
played into that stronger, but it also feels a little bit out of characteristic for the genre because it
Hmm.
is titled a not murder, sorry, a horror mystery. And usually the archetype for mysteries is that the main character is the detective type. So I think
Hmm.
that's where it really falls short for Koichi for me is that he isn't a detective inside of a mystery story. And I think that's probably just a missed opportunity, or maybe again talking about the novel is that maybe that was something that was mistranslated. That maybe it's a little bit
Hmm.
more scarier to watch a story that these kids are just victim to forces that are outside their control versus a
Yeah.
kid that is smart enough to actually figure it out. Because again, how Japanese schooling works that they are technically in middle school, but they are old enough to be in ninth grade if you're talking about like the American grading system. So it's
Hmm.
like it doesn't make sense that a ninth grader would be able to figure it out. Where in the Final Destination, I think they were college students.
They were
So
in college, I believe.
yeah, going on a vacation, a summer vacation. But that's the first one. I don't follow the other Final Destinations. But
There are
yeah, like
so
that
many
makes
Final
sense.
Destinations.
Yeah, I remember when
There's
they
so
turned into
many.
3D, when 3D was big back in like 2012 or 13. But yeah, I think it is a missed opportunity to probably readapt
Mm.
this in a little slightly different way, and I think I would have been more attracted to the other idea of this versus than the actual idea of it. So to go back to the Forbes comment that this is one of the best of the decade, we'll see. I mean, we'll probably come back. When we get to in real time 2030, maybe I'll change my
Yeah.
mind about it. But since you did finish it, Sam, I
Mhm.
do value your opinion, so I'm going to dedicate myself to watch to the rest of the episodes. But I know there's a weird dance scene. I know there's a beach episode, so I'm kind of interested from a memeage standpoint about where this goes.
It's a bit weird where as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, it's the beach episode, and but like they made it canon, but like so like that beach trope, like they made it work, so to speak. And with me, realize too, like I have tried to finish watching this anime many times before, and as I said, like I just didn't, like I think life just got in the way where I couldn't dedicate time to it. And I know the mystery of the classroom, so I was trying to solve it in tandem with the characters. And I would say that it's very, very interesting, the mystery in regards to the classroom. And you get to see how characters devolve in a sense of, I'm trying to remember, I think it wasn't Lucky Boy. It was that one anime that we saw with the kids being marooned on the island. I can't remember, but
Oh, Sunny
what the
Boy.
name of it was. Yeah, yeah, Sunny Boy, Sunny Boy. It felt very much like Sunny Boy in the sense that there's a shift in the anime where it feels like Lord of the Flies almost, and sort of like questions, if you knew how to prevent uh tragedies from happening, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to, give up your humanity in order to save those lives? Essentially, like calls into questions like what's the cost of does the cost of the needs for the many truly do outweigh the needs of the few in that regard? But I feel as though like in that time, like everything's so frantic, you don't really get a chance to sit and delve into it just because of all the chaos that's happening. And I would say like I enjoyed it, going in there for the mystery aspect, not necessarily going in there for the characters, but trying to unravel the mystery and rewatching those first three episodes. The way that they had set it up, you can tell that they had an idea, or like they already knew like what the answer to that mystery was. So that was very good to see. But
Oh, so like working backwards from the solution. Yeah, for sure. And there's other novel installments in the there's other novel installments in the Another series. So I
mhm,
actually wouldn't mind that this property be revisited. But if we're going to talk about if it should be resurrected or reburied, maybe we should maybe give a little bit more credence to another category about a rewrite. But again, that's
yeah.
always on the fence post, on the fence, and not really making a choice when you choose neither. But for me, I'm going to say that based off the 3 episodes I watched, I'm going to have
Mhm.
to rebury it.
I would say with me, I would resurrect it, but the caveat being that this is just like a mystery in the sense of like it's sort of like that good mystery. You mentioned it once before in a previous podcast. It's like once you know the answer to it, that's it. You don't really get anything else from it. I mean, if you watch it again, you gain an appreciation in the thought that they put into effect to set up the hints at the answer of the mystery. But essentially, it's one of those works where if you watch it once, that's enough.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think I mentioned that about Future Diaries last year as well. It's like,
Hmm.
yes, it's it's a lot to handle, but it's worth the ride and enjoyable to watch it once, but never again. So if you were going to resurrect, mean to bring it back into your watch list, you would resurrect it, and I rebury it, meaning that I don't want to. Well, that's not fair because you said you will rebury it.
I've reburied things before for a rewrite, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm going to rebury it. Just leave it dead. Don't revisit it. But maybe have another someone else handle the property again with probably
mhm.
a better full understanding of the series and completion. So yeah, Sam, that was our discussion about, or our 10-year discussion on the
Yep.
anime Another.
Real quick before we go on to our anime announcements for the rest of the year and for our closing, I wanted to get your opinion on it because you were a teacher over there in Mongolia. Do you have any interesting curses or rumors in your school, similar to Another?
There is a weird, because I live in the capital, so there's a
Hmm.
very distinct separation between like countryside um, mythology or lore or traditions versus those
Yeah.
that are in the city because it's an urban environment. But there's one thing that you're not supposed to do in schools, especially, is whistle.
Really?
And yeah, it
Why
goes
is
back to
that?
a shaman tradition of whistling is calling upon spirits. And I
Okay.
think we cover it a couple of times. Even in Juju Kaisen, talks about how schools are sources of malevolent spirits for
Hmm.
all the negativity. Same thing with Mongolia is that you're not supposed to whistle for that reason. Is that it attracts you to wayward spirits and negativity. So no whistling
Huh.
indoors, especially in schools and hospitals. But other than that, nothing particular that I come into contact with as a teacher. But yeah, that's interesting. Now I think about it, I was like, oh yeah, why don't I whistle? I love whistling. And I was like, oh yeah, I have to catch myself doing that. I was like, oh yeah.
Because everyone's gonna start like looking at you weird and like start like shunning you. I would say like the coolest, well, not really coolest, but the closest thing to me that I've had is like back in high school, and it's not even like anything that supernatural, but it's like one of those rumors that there was a mysterious like VIP pool on the top of the school, and you had to have like a special key to go into a certain staircase that will lead you up to the top of the building to get to the pool. I remember it was like it was one of those fun little rumors that people would give like freshmen as they're entering in high school, and that's about all I have. Nothing as cool as don't whistle, otherwise you're going to be cursed for who knows how long.
Yeah. Well, maybe just bring you bad grades, but not a not a lifelong curse. Yeah.
It's like you get like that 84, and it's like that would be a B minus, not a B plus. It's like no, I shouldn't have whistled 10 minutes before the test. But enough of that. Onwards to our anime announcements for the rest of the year. So just to reiterate to our audience, our schedule for publishing, we would normally do a 10 weeks off, 3 weeks off throughout the year. So I would think like probably 3 installments of 10 weeks, I would think, Jay. Is that how it has been?
Yeah, we basically follow
Yeah.
the Japanese broadcasting schedule. So, with
Hmm.
this being the first week of the winter season, it goes 10 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 10 weeks on, 3 weeks off, and so on. So, we actually have 4 segments that we follow. So, we'll do winter, spring, summer, and fall, and then the little breaks in between.
And just so that you, being the audience, have an idea of what to look forward to for this year, we will be covering anime such as, we'll be covering anime such as Kuroko no Basket, Sword Art Online, Psychopath, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Magi, and even cover some of the Berserk movies. We'll also have some guests, some new, some old. Others may be podcasters, while others may be diehards that we have to rein in. Who knows? And there will also be some anniversaries that will be celebrated. Is it yours? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. And just know that on our next episode, we will be reviewing the 2012 anime High School DxD. And Jay, do you have any other remarks before we go into your closing?
Yeah, so 2012 is a big year. So like you mentioned the big highlights of the year, because like SAO Sword Art Online kind of transitioned, like is kind of the marker for the most modern, I guess, trends of anime. We're kind of still in or transitioning out of. Kind of Jujutsu Kaisen kind of broke that. But Sword Art Online has like 5 installments. We'll get to that episode, but it has multiple movies, multiple spin-offs. It has beloved fans, hardcore fans. They have strong haters. It's a lot. Excel World. I'm a personal fan of Excel World that came out this year, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, there's a lot that came out, and we'll cover about 30. Because at the end of the year, we do the best of the year, being this year currently 2022, as well as 10 years ago, 2012. And so we'll basically be covering 36 anime in total, given that the Berserk movies had 3 total installments, but 2 of them came out this year. So yeah, it's a lot to look forward to, and I'm very excited about it.
Exactly. And as I said, I'm also glad that you are aware of Excel World, because I thought that I was a lonely man on an island who nobody else knew about it, because it is related to Sword Art Online. And once we get to those episodes, we can talk about it. And at least it seems like this year was a very good year for anime from what we have for our list. And not only that, but we would also be doing a production company highlight as well as a voice actor highlight as well in regards to our episodes. So a lot to look forward to, man. I think we're going to be doing a lot of good stuff this year, and I can't wait. Aside from that, Jay, what have you got for us today?
All right, so I got a quick factoid to close out the episode. So this is on meme origins, and we're going to talk about another one. Another one is a catchphrase associated with American producer DJ Khaled, who has been known to repeat the phrase several times in succession. On May 12th, 2015, the YouTube channel uploaded the music video for DJ Khaled's track How Many Times, featuring Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, and Big Sean. In the beginning of the video, Khaled orders a woman to give him a kiss and repeats several more by saying another one.
We the best!